For a very special edition of the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast, we got two very special guests in the building. Mysonne, the General, and Angelo Pinto, founding members of Until Freedom. Brothers, how y'all doing this afternoon?
Oh, I'm blessed and highly favored.
Most definitely, we're doing good.
Absolutely. A pleasure to have you gentlemen on the podcast. If you don't know who these brothers are, look them up. Look into their organization, Until Freedom. They're currently down in Kentucky fighting the injustice of the murder of Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
Let's start right there, brothers. How are you guys doing down there? What's the scene like? Just brief us on how you guys are doing.
Well, pretty much, we're building. We're united. We came down here to support the local activists who've been on the ground for the past few months out here. It's been over 150 days, and there's been no one's been charged with the murder of Breonna Taylor. And unfortunately, we had to leave our families and relocate, actually literally move down to Kentucky to be on the ground every day, to have some level of community engagement, community building, just in order for the powers to be that be to understand that, it's not going to be silent, that they're not going to be able to brush this under the rug, and we're going to be here until we receive some level of justice for Breonna Taylor.
Yeah, I think for us, we want the rest of the country to feel how we feel about the issue, and also how we know Louisville already feels about the issue. Everyone here is having conversations and trying to get justice and accountability for Breonna Taylor. But we know when you take the pressure off of the law enforcement, off of the mayor, off of the district attorney, then what happens is they hope folks forget about the case and it goes under the table and they never have to address it. So what we're trying to do is really keep the visibility up. And we know it's coming at a huge sacrifice for us moving to Louisville, but we know that this is really the only thing that's going to begin to kind of push the tide closer towards justice and make sure, the Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, knows he can't just get away with murder and the officers involved won't either.
So take us back, if you can, the people who don't know about what happened to Breonna Taylor. Could you enlighten the people who don't know the situation that went down that night?
Well, Breonna Taylor was in her home with her boyfriend, and the police busted in her door with a no-knock warrant, looking for an ex-boyfriend of hers who did not reside in the residence. And when they kicked in the door, her boyfriend, what's his name again?
Kenny Walker.
Kenny Walker fired a shot, which he was legally able to do because they did not announce themselves, they did not say anything, and he thought that there was a burglar. At which time they returned over 20 shots, 8 of which shots landed inside of Breonna Taylor. Now, the no-knock warrant that was issued, is a faultiness behind the no-knock warrant, because the first thing is the person that they were looking for had already been in custody for hours. He had already been in custody, so there was absolutely no need for them. So there was negligence there. Then the no-knock warrant was issued based on facts that they said that the Postal Service had told them some unusual activity and parcels have been sent there, in which the Post Office has denied any such rumors. There's so many different things that went wrong in this case, and there hasn't been anyone charged for the murder of Breonna Taylor. So first of all, we understand that these things are not, this is not something that's new, and it always happens. These no-knock warrants are faulty, and they give police a level of discretion, a level of above the lawism in which they can just go in there and shoot. They never even entered into Breonna Taylor's home. They shot 22 shots through her windows and through the walls. So they were not aware of children who were in the home. They were not aware of anyone who was in the home. They shot and they murdered her. Then they arrested Kenny Walker for assault, in which those charges were later dropped. So there's just so many things with this case. And there hasn't been any one of the officers were suspended for something else that didn't even have to do with this case. So there's just so many things that's wrong with this case, and when you look deep into the case, you realize that on so many different levels, there was negligence.
And Mysonne gave a great breakdown of what happened to Breonna Taylor, but one way to look at it in a very simple context is that a Black woman was murdered inside her home by police.
Very
right?
simple.
You know, a Black woman was murdered in her home by the folks who she pays through her tax dollars to protect her, right? So this is a tremendous tragedy, not only for her family, but for the community as well.
Now, Angelo, you being a civil rights attorney, what kind of information are you receiving back from any lawyers or any officials regarding the situation as to why there hasn't even been an arrest yet?
Well, you know, we're working with a local attorney. Her name is Lanita Baker on the case. She's the attorney for the family of Breonna Taylor. And, you know, we're hearing a lot of the information that you traditionally hear in police-related murder incidences, which is really that they have to conduct an investigation. So we've heard that from the mayor. We've heard that from the Metro Police Department, and we've also heard it from Daniel Cameron. And it's also happening at the federal level. So what you have usually taking place that really slows down the process is everyone who can actually do something about the murder saying they have to conduct an investigation. And usually those investigations are really another way, another strategy to deter and prevent justice from unfolding, and particularly unfolding fast. You know, a lot of times I often say to folks is, if you just look at the tape, if you just talk to the neighbors, most folks in the community already know something wrong took place. But what you have happening with these, especially with a district attorney, is they traditionally work with officers. So when they're prosecuting folks, whether it's for, you know, a murder, a theft, or what have you, the district attorney is working in direct relationship with police officers. So one of the things they never want to do is disrupt that relationship. So when you see them being forced or being pressed to prosecute police officers, it almost never happens, let alone a conviction, let alone jail time. So that's pretty much what we're up against. District attorneys and other investigative bodies deciding to slow down the process and really trying to figure out a way to say, we're not going to do anything.
Now, how was the atmosphere? How is it? How was it, you know, down there? Was there a lot of things going on? The people obviously upset, frustrated, but how's the atmosphere in Kentucky now that it's been no arrest for 140, 50 days?
The atmosphere is people are fed up. You know, when we came down here, they invited us, they welcomed us with open arms because we brought a extra added energy and an added level of unity to these. It's so many grassroots organizations doing work who have been doing tireless marches and tireless acts of, you know, against the system. And what we came down here is to make that one cohesive message and one cohesive group. And the energy here is people really want justice for Breonna Taylor. They're really willing to sacrifice whatever it takes. And, you know, we would hope that Daniel Cameron understands that. When we came down here last time and 87 of us were arrested on his lawn for protesting, it was just a glimpse at the levels that we were willing to take. You know, what we were willing to sacrifice our freedom. It was just a glimpse of, and that was only 87 people. So, and it was way more people now who want to do way more. So we would hope that we don't have to continue to protest. We want to go home. You know, we want to go home. I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. We want to go home to our families, but we understand. And what I understand is that if we can't get justice for Breonna Taylor, we can't get justice for anyone. You know, the reality is I have yet, and I don't know about anybody else, with me, I have yet to see a Black woman in America get justice in these cases. I can give you a few names of officers who have been arrested, you know, who have been connected to the murder of some of our brothers, but I have yet to hear one get arrested for murdering one of our sisters and convicted for murdering one of our sisters. So this is personal for me. You know, I've taken this personal because as a Black man, I feel like our women have not been protected by us, you know, and I think that we have to set a precedence that no more will our women just be beat and killed without us standing up for them and standing beside them.
I think you just answered my question. I was going to ask you next because I really commend you, Mysonne, for real, because you going from a hip hop obviously rapper and doing your thing in the hip hop and doing it consciously and giving out real information, which I appreciate. But you taking the manner of going down here and putting foot to pavement and really being out here and doing what a lot of people text about or social media about. I really appreciate and commend you. I was going to ask you where the real motivation came from to go, you know what? Enough's enough. I got to get out here. I got to put my voice out here and really do the damn thing, because you've been arrested from the protesting from the brothers in New York that didn't have electric, to Breonna Taylor, to the list goes on and on and on. So where does that motivation come from?
It comes from, you know, being formerly incarcerated and being an artist. You know, my mentor, Harry Belafonte, always says that artists are the gatekeepers of truth, and those directly impacted must be the solution. And, you know, and spending time in prison, you know, coming from marginalized communities, understanding what we actually deal with, being inside those prisons, knowing how probably 80% of those kids don't even deserve to be in jail. And some of them may never come home for 10 and 15 and $20 crimes, where their white counterparts are not even receiving or getting probation, or not even receiving, you know, misdemeanors for the same kinds of or worse crimes. You know, understanding that reality and the understanding that I actually had a voice, you know, and I had a platform and people actually were paying attention to what I said. And I decided I wanted to utilize that voice and that platform and even my body to sacrifice for something that was greater than me. You know, I've done things in my life that I'm not proud of, you know, and I spent time in jail for things that I didn't do, you know, but sometimes it's karma because I've done things that I wasn't proud of and I've done crime. But every time that I'm arrested for something like this, I sleep good at night because I know that I'm doing the right thing. I know that I'm on the right side of justice. I know that I'm on the right side of what's right, of history. I know that we cannot continue to be silent. You know, it pains me that not enough brothers feel this way. It pains me that our sisters are leading the way. And I don't mind following our sisters because, as we say, you know, Tamika Mallory is one of the greatest leaders of this generation. And we follow her wherever she'll take us. But it pains me that our brothers aren't on the front lines like they should be. Shout out to my brother Trey the Truth. Shout out to Angelo, Stephen Green, Tory Russell, a lot of brothers who are. But when we went to that cell and it was 87 of us arrested, it was only 20 plus of us that were men. You know, and that to me that's not right. I don't understand the mind state. Our women are supposed to feel like the men are protecting them. And when we aren't on those front lines, either in front of them or beside them, then we are losing. We are missing the point. We are missing the mark. We are not stepping into what we were created to be. We've created to be the protectors. They're supposed to look at us and feel protected, and that's not what's going on right now. So that's what motivates me. It motivates me every day knowing that I have sons that are looking at me. I have a mother. I have a sister. You know, I have a wife. And my goal is to make sure that they feel protected.
Appreciate you.
Most definitely. I want to ask you guys about Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, what happened to him, and what happened to the police officers that murdered Breonna Taylor since the incident.
So Kenny Walker, who was Breonna's boyfriend, was initially arrested and charged because he fired a shot after the officers fired multiple shots. And as a result, he was arrested that same night. And Kenny was sitting in jail for a number of weeks. And there was an active campaign to free Kenny. And as a result of the work of the local folks, the visibility that Until Freedom also brought to the issue, Kenny was released and his charges were dropped. And the first day we showed up in Louisville, which was the day before Memorial Day, where we were honoring Breonna, Kenny was released that day, and he still had an ankle monitor on. And then the next day they took his ankle monitor off. So, you know, he's relieved now that he is free, but he had to witness the murder of his girlfriend, right, and is still dealing with the trauma of all that took place and occurred. The officers, and I pulled up the names because I wanted to make sure we say, because we often say arrest the cops. Mm-hmm. And those officers are Jonathan Mattingly, Brett Hankison, Miles Crossgrove, and Joshua James. All four of those officers, none of them have received any kind of accountability for the murder of Breonna Taylor. One of the officers, Joshua James, was not at the scene, but he was the officer that procured the no-knock warrant. So we believe all four of those officers should be held accountable and charged with murder. as Mike said, one of the officers has been fired as a result of some other misconduct, but none of them have been brought to, and he's basically on the beach right now. And there's photos floating around of that. None of the officers have been brought to justice whatsoever. So, as we know, we're putting a lot of pressure on the Attorney General because he really has the power in his hands, Daniel Cameron, to do something.
How's the atmosphere with the police during the marches and while you guys are out there protesting? How's the atmosphere between the protesters and the Kentucky Police Department?
I mean, the Kentucky Police Department are doing what we've seen pretty much every police department around the country do when folks are protesting. They're meeting peaceful or nonviolent protesters with a lot of excessive force. And they're really trying to, in many ways, I believe, incite violence. And they're arresting folks who are literally just marching and chanting and protesting. We were out there 2 nights ago for a local protest that was organized by some of the local organizers. And they said that no one could be in the street. And as a result, they made some arrests. And then the following night, they said, if you even step into the street and you're protesting, you'll be arrested. So we see law enforcement trying to use excessive force to intimidate and prevent folks from really standing up against law enforcement and pushing back. But we know this is a tactic to really make folks go home. They don't want the visibility. They don't want to deal with the police department having to take accountability for their actions. So they're taking it out on protesters. Now, the reality of it all is that it's just really exposing how much the police department use excessive force and how much, as folks are now calling for around the country, the police needs to be defunded. Because if you can allow citizens of your city to peacefully demonstrate, which they have a constitutional right to do, something is wrong and the department needs to be dismantled. If you're unwilling to be held accountable when you commit murder or when you do something wrong, the department needs to be dismantled. And that's really the push that we're seeing in Louisville and across the country.
Powerful. Now, Black Lives Matters and other organizations, have they been assisting you guys until freedom, with some of your endeavors down there, or if anybody has been assisting you guys down there?
There are a number of organizations, and with some of them I don't have on. We've been working with
No Justice, No Peace.
No Justice, No Peace.
There is a sister named Katera from the ACLU who is really responsible for getting no-knock warrants banned locally. So no-knock warrants have been banned in Louisville. They haven't been banned in Kentucky and many other places, but the sister Katera really was instrumental in getting that law passed. And there's a lot of other organizers we're working with. The Louisville 87, which we're now a part of, and we refer to all of our other comrades who are arrested, are now kind of also knee deep in the fight around justice. So there's a tremendous amount of organizations that have kind of been on the ground doing the work that we're working with and taking the lead. And we're actually tomorrow having a press conference with them at Kingdom Fellowship Church. There's a lot of other faith leaders who've also kind of been working in partnership with us. So we're trying to make sure we're doing all of our work in coalition so that we could build power and really use our power collectively to create the change.
Awesome. Until Freedom, can you give some more context on how you guys created that? Now, obviously, it's in memory of Breonna Taylor, and that's the whole reason until it came up. But was it something that was planned prior to Breonna Taylor? And how did y'all get all of that emotion with your other counterparts? Until
Freedom is an organization that was founded about a year ago by myself, Angelo, Tamika Mallory, and Linda Sarsour. It was something that we wanted to see civil rights that was relevant to the culture now. There's so many legacy organizations that we respect and that have put in their work within their generation, and they continue to live on. We just wanted to create something that reflected us, that was hip hop based, that was immediate reaction to these activities every time, that was in the streets, that we felt connected to, that we felt like the youth would connect to, that we felt like middle age would connect to, that bridged all the gaps that we felt were inside of the movement. We feel like the movement is so strong, but everybody is in their own silos. And Until Freedom was one of those organizations that our vision was that we wanted to unite all of these groups, because I always said, what if Malcolm and King were together with the Panthers. You know, they all were organizing together, and that's what Until Freedom symbolized for us. You know, under the leadership of Tamika, who's been doing this for 25 years, and Linda, who's been doing this for 20 plus years, and Angelo, who's been doing it for double digit years. You know, I just came in and I wanted to utilize my voice, my platform, my artistry, everything that I have to be able to contribute to it. So when you look at Until Freedom, we focus mainly on immediate reaction to what's going on directly in the streets, connecting artists, connecting athletes, bringing visible people, making every action and every activity that's against our people, every civil rights violation, every police brutality violation, every violence in our communities. We focus on all of those things, you know, so we're pretty much like a one-stop shop for everything that's focused with freedom and equality, you know, so that's where we came from. But Breonna Taylor was something that I think pretty much activated it, you know, in that we're led by a woman, and Tamika's voice, you know, on this Breonna Taylor thing. She was the first person that came to us and said, like, we have to go fight for Breonna Taylor. And when she called us, you know, we come. And I think the fire that she put into this, and the personal, how she took this personal, you know, she's very strong-minded and strong-willed. And when she saw and heard about Breonna Taylor, and she called us on the phone and said, look, and she explained it to us, I think she personalized it. And then and that's when I tell you I personalized it, because I started saying our women don't feel protected.
Yeah.
They really just don't feel protected. So that's pretty much where Until Freedom came, and then that's how we got involved with the Breonna Taylor case.
And we actually, it's interesting, most of the country was not talking about Breonna Taylor's case at all.
Right.
And we were in Louisville on Memorial Day. And it just so happened, we were actually going to Indianapolis to meet with another family of a young man who was killed by police, Mikhail Rose. And when we were making that drive, we heard about the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis. So we happened to be in this region of the country when that happened. And we made a decision that, hey, you know what? We're close enough that we can drive to Minneapolis. And Minneapolis, in many ways, and the murder of George Floyd really sparked uprising and awareness around the country. And we were able to take some of that momentum and bring it back to the Breonna Taylor case. And I think folks have been doing that across the country. So we really, in many ways, were just doing the right thing in the right time, in the right moment, and able to recognize what else was taking place that would align with our efforts.
How do you guys deal with some of the criticism that you guys get from having a grassroots organization as you have?
Well, I mean, they talked about Jesus Christ. You know, they called Dr. King is still out in the coon. Most of the people, they couldn't even find a place to bury Malcolm. They didn't want to do his funeral. So I feel like we're in good company. You know, if only thing you're doing is talking about us, then that means we're actually doing something that you have to pay attention to. Criticism, you know, we're not perfect, and we don't pretend to be perfect, but we are definitely authentic and genuine. And I don't think you'll find for people who fight more for our people than we do, who believe more in equity and equality and justice for our people than we do. So I can take all of the criticism because I know where I come from. I know I come from a place of genuine. I've always been authentic in anything I've done. My resume reflects that. And if you personally know me, then you will never question or, you know, criticize anything that I do or this organization does. So I think we sleep good at night every night because we know that we're doing this, and we're out here on the ground, you know, with boots on the ground, foot to pavement every day, trying to figure out how we're going to change the conditions of our people every day. So I don't think that's even something that we really pay attention to.
And, you know, I think it comes with the territory. Like, you know, if you do this work, there are elements at play that will try to prevent you from doing this work. And we know some of the divisiveness that exists is really government manufactured. Government has a long history, COINTELPRO, of trying to disrupt organizing efforts that would just better the Black community and better the brown community and better any disadvantaged community. So we know some of the targeting and some of what we experience is as a result of kind of government contrived things to really stifle the movement. But I think the big piece for all of us and why I love working with Until Freedom is that, one, we're just aligned as people, like we believe in each other and the work. And we know that what we're doing is revolutionary. And the sacrifices come, and we know, some of the criticism will come, but we just have to stay the course. And oftentimes when you do that, people begin to get it and they get in line as well. And I think that's the beautiful thing about what's happening in this moment. More folks are becoming aware of this particular kind of injustice, and many more people are saying, I want to do something about it too.
How could people help Until Freedom? And what is your website where people can say, you know what, I want to join, I want to help, I want to donate, whatever?
Well, first of all, our website is untilfreedom.com. Any way that you would love to help, we need, we're looking for people who are really about this movement, who are about our people, who want to see things change. So we're looking for those things. We're about to establish different chapters in different states. So that's one way you can do it. As far as investments, because I hate the word donations because it's like charity. And with us, we just want you to invest in your freedom. We want you to believe in your freedom the same way we believe in your freedom. So anything that you give to Until Freedom is an investment in freedom. So, you can go to the website. There are ways that you can do that. But there are so many different entryways points into this movement, into this organization. So everybody is not going to be on the front line. We need people who do tech. We need people who figure out, some people donate food. Some people give food to communities. We give out, as we out here in the community, we're giving out on Saturday, we're giving food to the community, 1,000 people. We're giving out produce to 1,000 people. We have different basketball players who will be coming out here and playing basketball and donating things to the kids. So there's so many different ways. Our communities need everything. Like I say all the time, if all you got is all we need. Some people the guy sent me $6 yesterday, and that $6 probably meant more to me than $1,000 somebody probably sent to me. And he said, this is for your work in the movement. I appreciate you. And those things mean a lot to us. So however you feel like you can help this movement, because we're going to need everybody. We're going to need every lottie-dottie and everybody to come out here and make sure that we actually get some change. So any way possible, we appreciate it.
Definitely. Now, can you talk about how you guys were able to leverage like celebrities to get behind your movement? If anything, just to post, Breonna Taylor, because every time I look on Instagram, I see different celebrities, like some type of meme with a Breonna Taylor. Were you guys behind that, or was it something that just kind of caught fire?
I mean, I think for us, that's actually one of the strategies we look to using to elevate the issue. We were having a conversation with folks the other day who often say, hey, why are you publicizing what you're doing or publicizing your activities? And what we said was, that's exactly what we want to do. We want the world to pay attention. We want Breonna Taylor's name to be said more than any name you hear. So one of the ways in which we know that will happen is by getting influencers and celebrities to talk about Breonna Taylor and to invest in her justice as much as we're invested. So, along with Mysonne, there's other folks who we know have platforms, Yandy, and we have Portia, Kenny Stills. There was a lot of athletes and celebrities who came to show support. And I think once that happens, like the initial folks who do it, there's others who start to pay attention and say, you know what, I think this is something I should pay attention to. I think this is also important. All the way kind of to Oprah Winfrey, who said, you know what, this is an important enough issue that I'm going to put Breonna Taylor on the cover of O Magazine. And I think that also led to her saying, you know what, I'm also going to invest in putting 26 billboards up throughout Louisville. So I think the spark and our strategy around really creating visibility through the use of folks who are influencers and celebrities really just had a big ripple effect in this moment and pulled others in. And we're hoping we pull more in, and we're hoping folks continue to show up and continue to kind of make Breonna Taylor's name just the most visible name you hear when you think about police brutality.
Nope.
How's it living in Kentucky? Going from New York, Angelo, are you from New York too?
Yeah, I'm from New York.
So, all right, going from New York, we from Jersey, and going all the way down to Kentucky, I'm sure it was way different, a living experience. How is it like living in Kentucky right now?
So far they've welcomed us with open arms.
So,
The NYPD has pretty much been trailing us with helicopters every time we leave our home.
yeah.
Every time we get out, we drive down the block. Anywhere we get out, they circling around. So that's been a thing. As far as the protests, they made the new rules that you can't march in the streets the day we got here. So they're intentional about trying to intimidate us and scare us out of doing the work that we came here to do. But the people have embraced us. The organizers on the streets, everywhere we go, people are happy to see us here and they say thank you for coming here. So as far as that, community loves us. And we are living in community with other activists. Brothers Tory Russell, my brother Trey the Truth is here. We have different organizers from around the country who we are working with, who we've been living with and just sitting down, figuring out our strategy on how we're going to not only just get justice for Breonna, but just build this community and pour resources that we have and anything we have into this community to build life in it. Because right now, this is ground zero for the movement. It's like the new Selma. So we have a time right now to set precedents. We have a time right now because, like I say, there hasn't been justice for a Black woman in America. So we have the time to set precedents here, and we have the time to show what community looks like, what democracy looks like, what real organizing looks like, when the people are really fed up and they come to a point where they're not going to accept anything but justice looks like. So us living here, although it is away from our families and away from our homes, we feel at home here at this point.
So, wonderful. Well, definitely a pleasure to have you brothers on. Angelo Pinto, Mysonne the General. Yeah. Let the people know where they can find you, social media handles, of course, Until Freedom and everything like that, brothers.
So you can find me at Angelo Pinto ESQ on Instagram, Angelo Pinto on Facebook. And Angelo Pinto 720 on Twitter.
You can hit me on Instagram, Mysonne NY General. On Twitter, I think it's Mysonne, and on Facebook, I think it's Mysonne too. So
and Until Freedom on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as well.
Yeah.
Well, one last question, if I may, real quick. Did you guys hear about Nick Cannon suing Viacom?
Yes, I did.
What's your thoughts on that?
I think he's justified. I think when you've worked for somebody and you've given everything that you have to that organization for this amount of years, and for them to get rid of you for something that he acknowledges or he believes was a miscue, he's taking responsibility for you to decide that you no longer want to do work after you sucked pretty much his whole life and took all of his ideas and things that you never rightfully paid him for in the first place. I think it's something that he should do. He should pursue it.
Yeah, and I think that we talk about like there's a great awakening that's happening in communities across America with Black folks and brown folks and everyone else is realizing that injustice is real and we need to do something about it. I think celebrities are also paying attention and saying, you know what, maybe the current deal I have isn't justified, right? And maybe I need to do something to make sure I get the piece of the pie I deserve. But I think the other thing that we're witnessing is that it's kind of like with the officers. You have folks who are white folks who often do something and don't receive the same kind of backlash and are not canceled and are not fired. I mean, officers who are literally killing people who keep their jobs. But when Black folks make a mistake and they even try to correct it, they receive the most severe punishment. So I think, we have to do everything in our power to really protect ourselves, protect our interests, and protect, our assets. And that's what he's doing.
Absolutely. There's so much more we can expound on that. I know you brothers are pressed for time, but anytime you guys want to come on the platform, the door is wide open. We love to have you on for more dialogue, have more members of the Until Freedom movement on. And man, we definitely appreciate your time. We have Mysonne the General, Angelo Pinto on the Bit on the podcast. Salute, brothers.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having us.
All right, brothers.
Appreciate
much success in your work.